So we're going to change a standard bathroom non-key but locking doorknob today. So we've purchased a couple of boxes of these Defiant brand nickel finish. So I like the finish on these. You can buy any type you want. This one had a nice look, so we grabbed a couple of these. Okay, so we've taken this thing out of the box. You can see that each one does come with a little bit of an instruction document if you wanted to use that. Assume you don't because you're watching a video. You've got 4 wooden screws, 2 fastening screw nails or bolts with a screwdriver head. This is your latch, your doorknob, which comes apart, and this goes on the door frame if you don't have one. So today we're replacing a doorknob, so we're not going to need this because there's an existing one on the door as well. So let's take a quick look at sort of how this all functions. So you can see that the centerpiece here is square, and it aligns with this square end here. You can see how those 2 pieces fit together. So now let's put it together as if it was in the door. So this particular brand has 2 boxed areas. One's a very clear boxed area, the other one a little bit clearer on this side. And what that's for is to allow for a hole that might be spaced a little bit differently. So until you set this into the door, you really don't know where the hole is going to be for the doorknob to come through. So you might need to keep it quite tight, at which point you'd go into the first one or the closest one, or you might need to move it out, at which point you can see that there are holes for that one. So until we set it in the door, we're not going to know exactly which one we'll need, but this one provides for that option. So let's just set it in one. You can see that these set into grooves. If we move it over one, we lose that on one side, so this one floats, but we still have a set there. And then as we put this device in, we need to get the locking tab to go into the lock properly. So you wiggle that around a little bit to get it into the locking tab. And then before you close it, you're going to line up so that these all go in. So that's essentially the device and how it'll look once it gets into the door. So you want to make sure that you have the right size Phillips. This one's magnetized, but you can see how that fits in nicely. Anything too big will chew up these teeth. Anything too small could also slip and chew up the teeth in here. It is handy if you can get a magnetic one. As you can see, it holds it quite easily. So this is the device that would be normally in your wooden door, and you can clearly see it's a much bigger one here in this steel door frame, and your 2 screw nails. So you would install it the same way if you had to. This being where your latch slides on and your 2 screw nails. Again, you want to line this up into the holes that were there previously. But remember, when the door latches, if it doesn't snap in to the hole, you can do one of 2 things. You can either adjust at the doorknob, or sometimes you can just move this in or out on the door frame ever so slightly. So this door is steel, and if you were doing a normal bathroom door in a house, it would be wooden, but we're at an office, so we're going to use this steel door as the example. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set this through the hole, and we can see that it's in here, but our first concern is the direction of this latch. So if this door closes now, it's going to hit. Simple thing, but we need to make sure that this is spun and affixed in a manner that allows you to close properly. Now, because this is a steel frame, we're not going to use the 2 wooden screws that would normally go in here. We've repurposed the screws that were in here previously, and they're just slightly different in that they have a wooden entrance point, or they have a wooden starting edge, and then they have a finer thread to catch the steel. So we're going to put that in for each of these. This is a Phillips screw head, and some might call it a star. So you need that screwdriver. And when you're setting these in a wooden door, and the door is a replacement, you want to be careful to use the holes that were there previously. Most of the doors are made with a pressed fiber, so it's very easy to start a new hole, and you don't want this to be crooked. You don't want it to be spun. You don't want it to be further forward than it was before or further back. You can run into issues. Maybe this pushes, but it doesn't go in enough to actually release and hold the door closed. So you want to make sure you're aligning to the existing holes, and you can start both of them off a little bit before you tighten them. So start both screw nails off on a wooden door, get it nice and aligned, and then tighten each one carefully. Don't over tighten, because they'll easily strip. So now we've got that in place. I'm going to be careful not to latch it, otherwise we're going to have to put something in here to turn it to unlatch it. But you can see how it's going to work for us. Now we're going to get the doorknob and put it in. So our doorknob has your standard lock on the end, and it has a quick key release. Now, because this is the inside of the door, this is where we want the lock to be, and the outside will have the release. So in a bathroom, you want the lock on the inside. So as we're lining this up, you can see we have the 2 square areas which control the lock, or the latch rather. And if we choose this inside one, we can see that we're not lined up for the door properly. We're not going to get it into the hole. So let's just move out to the outer one and see if that gets us in. It does line up. Now we need to go to the other side so we can get this to actually go into the lock. So if you recall, there was a spot for each of these to position when it comes in. If we get those lined up, one goes in the hole, the other one is outside, and we've got it nice and tight on the back side now. And you can see immediately we've got the ability to turn this lock, and we're covering the hole properly. The next job is to line this device up. So not only do we have to get this to go into the lock end, but we also have to get these 2 areas here, which we're eventually going to screw nail into, to line up with this plastic. And this can spin, so we need to make sure that we wiggle it a bit to get it lined up. So let's start with putting the lock on. And then we want to wiggle a bit until we line up those bolt holes with a screw nail tip. Now this will fall quite easily. So one of the techniques I use is just to slide my hand on both sides of the lock. So this allows me to sort of hold it together while we place the 2 bolts that will ultimately hold the knob on the door. So let's get our screws. I keep calling them screws because they have a screwdriver head, but technically these are a little bolt. And one of the challenges we have with this is it's going to go in on an angle because of the doorknob head. Now if it goes in on an angle, it's not going to line up easily with where it needs to fall in. So what I like to do is push these in and wiggle a bit until I can get it into the spot, and then hand tighten a little bit. And I know that I've got it in place when I can't pull it back out. You see, I was able to pull it back out, so I don't have it in the right spot yet. Now this can take quite a bit of playing around, and you can see the reason is this spins so easily. So even though it's sort of in place, because it spins, we're sort of searching to find that right there. Well, it feels like I've got that. Yep. And now it won't pull out. Okay, so I'm just going to take the screwdriver, and you can see now the screwdriver has to come in on an angle. So that's less than ideal. But we're not going to tighten it all the way, but I do want to have it in a few threads to make sure it doesn't come out. But leave it nice and loose so that we can take the second screw bolt and do the same thing. Search around for that spot. Now you see, it's missed. Now we've got to get that back out of there. There we go. So sometimes this can be perfect the first time. Other times it can be very frustrating to find that one spot. You just have to be patient. It feels like we've got a little bit of a bite. Now we're kind of snug. Before we go too terribly crazy, we want to make sure that this catches properly. Remember I said before, sometimes if it's not placed properly, it'll go in, but it won't latch. So we need to confirm that it goes in far enough that we hear that latch actually catch. And try the lock. Everything works perfectly. So now we can just snug it up a bit more. Now sometimes you can get a little bit of a wiggle so that you can cover some of the old edges. In this door, we're pretty good shape the way it is. And that is it. It is in and it functions perfectly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of our latest videos.